Morning. Something must be discerned between the lines. Not with the ear, not with the clever mind. The physical ear can never hear truth any more than the physical tongue can utter it. Now, if you are here for sentences, you will leave with sentences and nothing more. But if, in this room, a thought stops for a breath, a split second of silence may rush the truth, and then it is not a thought. It is a presence. That is the only hearing that counts. Now then, let us begin where all honest work begins. Grace is never absent. Never. There is no corner of the universe where God is rationed. There is no winter of spirit. What appears to be absence is obstruction, obscuration, fog drawn by the personal sense of I that insists on managing life. Not one in this room is cut off from grace. Not one. Yet many in this room have felt cut off. How? The one who is trying to get grace has stepped between grace and itself. The self-improver is the self-obstructor. It is not your health, your employment, your neighbor, your age, your history. It is the little manager on the inner throne, the private me that says, I will handle it. That I is the curtain. Accept this. Do not try to defend that I. It has no success record in the kingdom. Oh yes, in the human scene it boasts, it plans, it controls outcomes. It gets and loses and gets again, and then worries about losing again. But my kingdom is not of this world. Not even an improved this world. Not even a perfect this world. You cannot bring grace down into the human scene as a new ornament on old furniture. You step out of the scene into grace while still appearing here. You remain here, but not of here. And the instant you attempt to run the human show, you step out of grace and back under personal management and its fears. Now then, our posture in this hour is not to gather another bright idea. Ideas have not saved you. We are not here to tighten the will, to promise better conduct, to polish the me. We are here to let an inner government take its seat, to let the throne change hands, to relinquish the claim of private ownership and private authority over life. Do you see? What you call your life does not need more of you. It needs less of the false center that blocks the flow already present. So we sit, not passive, not dreamy, present, alert to the now in which grace already is. A softness comes when the guard steps back. A quiet comes when the claimant of power becomes still. Then, do not grab. Let it be. My kingdom is not of this world. We are not repairing the human scene. We are consenting to another realm here in the midst of your day, while the outer scene continues its motions. And in that consent, the fog thins. What was never absent begins to govern. Now then, hear this where the ear cannot. There are not many realms. There are two. The human scene, time, cause, effect, fear, pride, loss, and gain. And my kingdom, spirit, grace, government, the is that neither begins nor ends. My kingdom is not of this world. It isn't even an improved this world. It isn't even a perfect this world. It is another order altogether. The shock is this: God does not enter the human scene as a patch, a rescue, a brilliant last-minute special effect. God is not a paramedic to time. Spirit is spirit. When you and I try to pull God down into a picture, we confess that reality is in the picture. We say, "Fix my scene, then I will believe." That is idolatry of the scene. That is worship of effects. And in that worship, there is no God at all. Now, if there is no God in the human scene, what then? There is a transition, not a renovation, a stepping out. Still walking this earth, still buying food and paying rent, yes, but inwardly lifted, out of the jurisdiction of cause and effect, into grace. Those that worship God must worship in spirit and in truth. Do you catch it? Not by getting better causes for better effects, but by leaving cause/effect to itself and consenting to be governed under another law that is not law, another order that is not order as this world counts it. The proof that we are still in the scene is our endless prayer for rearrangement. Give me safer tomorrows. Give me brighter yesterdays. Give me the same picture, but pleasant. That is the plea of the personal sense. It cannot breathe without a problem to solve, a plan to execute, a narrative to defend. It needs an enemy and an ally, a schedule and a scoreboard. It thrives on before and after. It writes reports on its own virtue. That is its oxygen, time, comparison, control. But my kingdom has no oxygen. It is life itself. It does not improve a story. It ends storytelling. It does not strengthen the me. It reveals that me as a shadow. And here is the bridge to our work. The personal I is a citizen of the human scene. It carries papers, ownership, authority, private will. Those papers are not valid in my kingdom. At the border they are surrendered. Nobody crosses with them. Nobody. So do not ask, "How shall I bring grace into this situation?" You shall not. You will step out of the situation into grace, and then, strangely, the situation will appear to conform, or dissolve, or reassemble under an order you did not design. But you will not be managing it. You will not be counting outcomes. You will be living under government. Still here, not of here. Now then, let that be your north. Not fixing pictures, but leaving pictures. Not asking God to enter time, but abandoning time to enter God. Now then, let us look at time where it cannot be looked at with eyes. My kingdom is not of this world, and it is not of its clock. There is no kingdom of heaven yesterday. There is no kingdom of heaven tomorrow. There is only now. Not a second stretched, not a span measured. A state. A presence. Can you imagine trying to live a minute from now? Try it. Step into it. You cannot. A minute from now is a complete vacuum. No breath is there. No life is there. Only a screen on which the mind projects pictures and calls them planning. And can you live a minute ago? No. You may remember a minute ago, repent it, polish it, argue with it, but you cannot live there. Whenever life is, it is now. The personal I cannot live on now. It starves there. So it fattens itself on yesterday and tomorrow. Yesterday supplies guilt, pride, grievance, food for a self that needs a story to remain important. Tomorrow supplies control, hope, fear, food for a self that needs a future to justify its authority. That is the diet of the little manager in us. It eats memory for breakfast and forecasts for dinner and calls that nourishment. It says, I must make up for yesterday. I must secure tomorrow. That I survives by time. It cannot breathe in grace because grace is now. When you feel anxiety, do not dignify it as a trait. Recognize it as the sensation of I trying to stand in a time that does not exist in spirit. When you feel anticipation, do not romanticize it as vision. Recognize it as the personal will attempting to govern a future God has not made. The minute you attempt to live out of now, you have stepped out of the kingdom and into the scene. The very fear is your confession. I am doing this without God. Accept that diagnosis and drop it. Not one in this room can live 5 seconds from now. Nobody. Nobody. Now then, practice. Let the mind propose a tomorrow. See it for what it is, a picture on an empty screen. Let the mind fetch a yesterday. See it as a shadow passing your window. Then stop. Not argue. Stop. A split second of silence. No yesterday, no tomorrow. Feel what remains. Not a thought about God. Not a sentence. Presence. Government. In that instant, you have not pulled grace in. You have merely removed the veil time cast over what already is. You are already nearer, not because you moved, but because the fog thinned. Do not misunderstand me. This is not neglect of wise arrangements. You will still keep appointments and catch trains. But you will not live in the appointment or in the train. You will live now. And from now, a rhythm begins to govern. Guidance, not guesswork. Impulse, not impulse buying. The calendar remains on the wall. The throne does not remain on the eye. Try it at the sink, at the desk, in the waiting room. Notice when the stomach tightens. Ask, what time am I in? Bring yourself back. Now. Just now. A breath with no story. Listen inwardly. Often, in that harmless second, without fanfare, the earth melts. The burden of yesterday falls. The terror of tomorrow dissolves. And you know, without words, not I, but Christ. Still here, yet not of time. This is the doorway. It is always open. It is always now. Now then, let us be honest enough to call a thing by its name. Fear is not a condition. Fear is a confession. In the very moment of fear, you are announcing, I am counting on making my demonstration without the help of God. That is all it is. Not deviltry, not heredity, not temperament. A confession that the personal I has taken the chair again and is trying to govern a future or defend a past. My kingdom is not of this world, and it is not of its fears. Do you see? Where fear is, the I is officiating. You do not correct fear by rearranging pictures or by rallying optimism. You do not paste sunshine over a lie. You correct fear by surrendering the one who is afraid. The sufferer is the obstruction. The watcher of the fear is the I that must yield. Do not ask for courage as if courage were a vitamin. Let the claimant of private authority step down. The second the throne changes hands, the fear reveals its emptiness. Not because you managed it, but because it was supported only by your pretense of management. Now watch how subtle the I is. It turns even prayer into fear management. If you will do this by Thursday, I will do that by Sunday. Bargaining. If I say this truth often enough, I will secure the outcome. Leverage. In an emergency, God will surely see how earnest I am. Emergency control. All of that is the old law of cause and effect put into religious language. All of that is the human scene wearing a halo. There is no God in that scene. Those that worship must worship in spirit and in truth, which means without a private lever to pull, without a private clock to beat. Otherwise, prayer is only a frightened eye performing rituals to hold its seat. Tough now. Nobody is helped by rehearsing the case. Nobody. Nobody. If you must talk your fear to a friend, know that you are only multiplying pictures. There's no use talking about it. Keep quiet and go ahead and struggle inwardly until the pressure breaks. Not stoic pride, silence. Not denial, surrender. Tell no one your forecast. It is not spiritual to narrate the human scene. It is spiritual to sit still one split second and let the false owner lay down its keys. That is the only confession required. Not I. Then stop. Let a breath be without a story. Now then, let fear serve you for once. Treat it as an alarm, not an identity. Each tremor simply says, the I is on the throne. Good. You have found the blockage. Use it. Right there, return to now. A split second of silence. No yesterday to regret, no tomorrow to arrange. The mind stops asking. Presence answers without words. Government takes its seat. Often in that bare instant, not later, the earth melts. The burden rolls without negotiation. You are still here, buying food, keeping appointments, but you are not of here. The case has been dismissed for lack of a claimant. Fear cannot outlive the disappearance of its author, and the author vanishes when the inner throne changes hands. Now then, let us put a light directly on the culprit. What is this personal I that blocks grace? It is not your face, not your laugh, not the way you stir your coffee. It is not your gifts or your human color. Personality is not the enemy. The enemy is the private claimant hidden under the words my and mine. My life, my supply, my body, my future, my demonstration. Each my is a deed of ownership. Each mine installs a little ruler on the throne, a private authority with private rights and private anxieties to defend those rights. That is the I that cannot receive grace because it already believes it owns and operates the apparatus of living. Hear it in your thinking. My health must be safeguarded. My career must be advanced. My children must turn out. My practice must grow. My meditation must work. The strain rides in on that two-letter pronoun. The moment I am the source, I must be competent. I must be right. I must be safe. Then begins the whirring machinery. Calculations, comparisons, apologies, justifications, defenses. No rest can enter there, because grace cannot enter there. Grace is not a consultant to a private firm. Grace is government. Do not misunderstand. We are not erasing your human distinctiveness. Grace does not make you a bland statue, without laugh, without tears, without the peculiar angle of your humor. It removes the false center that says, I am the source, I am the manager, I am the one holding this up. When that claimant steps down, the instrument remains and becomes more available, more transparent, more itself, because it is no longer congested with self-importance. The music plays through a relaxed violin. It does not consult a proud violin. Now the negations must be plain. Not self-improvement, not spiritual cosmetics, not a better human scene, not a more pious manager in the same old chair. An inner dethronement, the laying down of private ownership and private authority, the surrender of the deed that reads my life. Until that paper is torn, you can recite truth, you can polish phrases, you can schedule longer meditations, but the firm remains yours, and the payroll of fear keeps running. How then? Not by tightening will, not by spiritual performance, by the very thing that cannot be explained to the physical ear, a consent, a not I. The old apostle gave you the sentence that ends the struggle. Not I, but Christ. Not my energy, not my plan, not my advancement. An indwelling government, a presence that is. My kingdom is not of this world, and it is not of personal jurisdiction. When that is discerned, even for a split second of silence, the keys fall from the private hand, and order appears without your arranging. Try this now where you sit. Notice any sentence that begins with my and ends with strain. See the signature of a false owner. Then, without drama, let the owner vacate. Not I. Leave a breath without a claimant. Do you feel the difference? It is not a mood. It is the absence of an imposter. It is the presence resuming government. Still here, not of here. Still you, without a private throne. And from that moment, your uniqueness is no longer a performance for survival. It is a transparency for grace. Now then, the throne does not change hands as a theory. It changes in a moment, at 10 o'clock, at midnight, at 3 a.m. There is a point, a definite point, when what you have studied ceases to be words outside and becomes life within. You cannot schedule it, you cannot perform it, but you can be found ready when it happens, because you have ceased insisting on private ownership and you have grown willing, again and again, for one split second of silence in which the claimant drops out. How do you know the moment? By the sign that cannot be faked. Relaxation. A falling away of the old burden to make life turn out. Not laziness, not neglect. Release. You still wash the dishes, you still meet the client, but you do it without the inner labor of managing outcomes, without the fear tax on every breath. A rest comes that does not depend on the figures, the reports, the weather, or the faces around your table. You discover you are no longer paying for your peace with control. Up to that point, we are seekers, students, trying to reach God with ideas, with effort, with better behavior. After that point, you are not reaching. You are being governed. Still appearing as a person, yes. Still walking here, yes. But no longer ruled by personal sense. My kingdom is not of this world. And now, somehow, you know it. You are in it while here. The change is jurisdictional. Before, law, cause and effect, deserving, timing, manipulation, penalty, pride. After, grace, government, guidance, supply, protection, right unfolding. You are out from under bookkeeping. You are out from under clocks. You are under an order that arranges itself without your pushing. Do not imagine that this means inaction. It means right action without the old author. It means the phone rings and you are moved, clearly or not at all. It means a letter arrives and you respond from within, not from fear. Sometimes quickly, sometimes not at all. But the doer has changed, not I. The imposter has been retired. The presence acts as you, and the earth melts without argument. Now then, how does one come to that moment? By 1,000 little deaths of the I that lives on past and future. By catching yourself in the time trap and stopping for that harmless, holy second. By letting fear expose the usurper and then declining to defend it. By practicing now as the only door. Each time you say, quietly, "Not I," and mean it enough to enter one split second of silence, you are setting the table for midnight. You are saying to the universe, the chair is vacant. And when the government sits, it sits. It may come in a room like this. It may come at the sink. It may come while you are awake with a sick child and have no more plans to spend. In that hush, the thought stops. No yesterday, no tomorrow, and rushes the truth. Not a statement, the spirit itself. You will feel the hand go off the lever. You will feel the weight go off the chest. You will know without any sentence at all, I live, yet not I. From that hour, you do not retire discipline, but you retire anxiety. You do not retire attention, but you retire authorship. And grace, which was never absent, is now operative as government. Now then, let it be this moment. Now then, let us be exact. Truth is not heard with ears, and it is not uttered with tongues. The physical ear can never hear truth any more than the physical tongue can utter it. What is audible here are words. What is livable is spirit. Between the lines, not on them. Beneath the sound, not in it. If you sit here waiting for a brilliant phrase to fix you, you are waiting in the wrong place. My kingdom is not of this world, and it is not of its acoustics. The mechanism, if we dare use that word, is not mechanical at all. It is a pause, a stop. For the space of a breath, a split second, the personal mind ceases outlining, ceases remembering, ceases forecasting. In that harmless interval there is an opening, no claimant, no advisor, no planner. And into that opening rushes not a sentence, but presence. Assurance without reason. Direction without debate. Peace without cause. A felt government, not a thought about government. Often that is the very instant the earth melts. Not because a word convinced it, but because the absence of your private authority revealed that there was nothing to melt. Do not mistake statements for revelation. 1,000 repetitions of grace will not produce grace. A flawless recital of truth is still sound crossing air. You can recite, not I but Christ, and keep the chair. Or you can whisper nothing at all and let the chair be vacant. Which is it? The proof is rest. The proof is the end of inward bargaining. The proof is that the next step is given and does not require your heroics. Repeating about supply is not supply. Grace is supply because grace is government, and government is present only where the personal governor has stood aside. Here is your simple inward instruction. Return to now. Cease outlining. Let there be a gap, no picture, no argument, no future. Do not try to be holy. Be still. Let a breath arrive that has no story. Do not help it. Do not brand it meditation. One split second is enough if the claimant is absent. Not I, and stop. In that stop, Christ consciousness is not manufactured. It is discerned. It was there before you invited it. It was there before you named it. Your silence did not fetch it. Your silence only removed the noise that hid it. And healing? And supply? Do not think in terms of getting. In spirit, there is no getting. There is. What dissolves is the belief that something is missing, that life is privately owned and therefore liable to shortage. When the personal I drops, lack drops with it, because lack was never a condition of spirit, only of a mind that imagined itself separate, timed, endangered. Then adjustments appear, health restored, doors opening, dangers passing, not as prizes won, but as the natural evidence of one government operating where two once contended. Still here, not of here. The calendar remains, the throne has changed hands. Practice this in the midst of life. At the sink, at the desk, in the hallway between meetings. Catch the mind drawing a map. Drop the pencil. Now. A split second. No yesterday to fix, no tomorrow to secure. Presence, felt. Government, operative. And then, without strain, the earth melts. Now then. Grace is not a mood. Grace is government. A state that governs the individual, guides, directs, supplies, protects, without consultation with a private planner. My kingdom is not of this world, and therefore not of its anxieties, not of its bargaining, not of its guarantees. Under grace, life is not managed, it unfolds. Not I, but Christ. Not authorship, response. Supply first. Under grace, supply ceases to be a contest and becomes a rhythm. Work is done, yes. Skill is offered, yes. But the compulsion to produce outcomes loosens, and doors open without your crowbar. The phone rings that ought to ring. The email you forgot to send is somehow not needed. The client who would have drained you never shows. You did not arrange it. You consented, and the order arranged itself. That is government. Health. Do not turn this into a magic trick. Under grace, life maintains its instrument. You are moved to rest without guilt, to nourish without crusade, to take the right help without fear or pride. The inner nudge comes. Stop now. Walk now. Call now. And in heeding it, adjustments appear as if of themselves. Strength returns not as a victory of will, but as the evidence of one law operating where two once contended. The body is not bullied into wellness. It is governed. Right relationships. Under grace, you cease managing other people's roles in your story. You are given a word or a silence. A meeting occurs without contrivance. A parting occurs without malice. Those meant to walk with you arrive. Those not meant to stay are released without drama. No leverage, no manipulation. The invisible order fits the parts. Protection. Safety under grace is not a fence erected by fear. It is location, consciousness under government. You find yourself absent from where harm would be, present where help is needed, calm where panic roars. Dangers pass as if you were not a candidate for them, not because you paraded affirmations, but because the private claimant stepped down and the realm took custody. Now then, here is the paradox of action. We still act, we still decide, but as response, not as anxiety. The word within leads, and we follow, promptly or not at all. Thy grace is sufficient. Show me. That is our entire strategy. The recurring temptation will come. Deadlines, guarantees, human levers. You will feel the hand reach for the old controls. Name it. Stop it. Return to now. One split second of silence. Let the chair be vacant. Then move only on what is given. Understand this by analogy. A bank teller does not keep an extra dollar because she is heroic. She cannot keep it and remain a teller. Principle governs the hand. 2 and 2 are 4 without strain, not because the student sweats, but because mathematics operates when the mind consents to it. So with grace. A line, and outcomes follow the line of principle. Resist, and you are back to law, back to sweat, back to bookkeeping. Nobody can serve 2 masters. Choose now. Not I, but Christ. Presence governs. And without your heroics, the earth melts. Now then, here is the last barricade of the personal I. If I let go, everything collapses. That is the final scarecrow at the gate. It is not wisdom speaking. It is the usurper defending its seat with threats. Without me, you will forget the bills, you will miss the train, you will neglect the child, you will take the wrong medicine. Listen closely. My kingdom is not of this world, and it is not of its threats. The only thing that collapses in surrender is the false governor. Not your life, not your duty, not your love. The imposter. Surrender is not denial of human needs. It is not a vow to hunger, to pain, to unheated rooms, to unmade calls. Surrender is not irresponsibility. It does not throw away the map and call it trust. It does not ignore the fever out of pride. It does not refuse counsel to pretend spiritual superiority. That play acting is still the I, only now wearing a holy mask. There is no God in that scene. Those that worship must worship in spirit and in truth, not in performance and posturing. What then is safe surrender? It is the withdrawal of private authority. It is the end of your self-appointment as manager of outcomes. It is the inner yielding, not I, that leaves you available to the right human step without strain, without drama, without the clock in your chest. Under grace, you may call the doctor. You may hire the attorney. You may decline the deal. You may rest the body. But you do not do it as a frightened owner. You do it as an instrument under government, moved, not driven. The same act, different author. The proof is rest at the center even while the hands are busy. Now watch another subtlety. The I will turn even this into accusation. I failed to surrender, therefore I suffer. That is the same little ruler writing tickets to itself to remain important. Drop it. Do not rehearse your supposed failure. There's no use talking about it. Nobody. Return. Now. Now then. Now. The practice is never a post-mortem. The practice is a present consent. A split second of silence. The chair vacant. Government seated. No yesterday to flog. No tomorrow to frighten. Just presence now. Here is your renunciation, simple and safe. Give up yesterday. Give up tomorrow. Stop taking thought in advance as if God were absent and you were alone in a hostile market. Take no thought for the morrow is not recklessness. It is jurisdiction. It means Do not leave this now to build a tomorrow God has not made. Remain. Let thought stop for a breath. In that harmless vacancy rushes not a plan, but assurance. And from assurance you will be told the next wise thing. Call, rest, speak, be silent. Move or do not, but not as a private authority. Do you ask for a test of safety? Peace. If peace is absent, the eye is back at the lever. Stop, return, 1 split second. Not I. In that instant, the earth that was so solid in your mind melts. Needs are met, not by your heroics, but by order reasserting itself. Still here, keeping appointments, paying bills, tending children, but not of here. Safe because you are no longer a private caretaker of a private universe. Safe because government is present. And under government, surrender is not neglect. It is fidelity to the only power there is. Now then, if the chair is truly vacant of the private owner, there must be evidence. And the first evidence is this: the end of inner prejudice. Sectarian thought, this group and that group, this worthier and that unworthy, cannot receive the full light. It cannot. It is a shutter across the window. The personal I maintains itself by separating, by judging, by needing an enemy to prove its virtue and a favorite to prove its charity. My kingdom is not of this world, and it is not of its comparisons. Where comparison rules, grace cannot govern. There is no God in that scene of better and worse, of guilty and more guilty. Do you see? The moment we sort life into our piles, we enthrone a private judge, and the private judge blocks the universal government. Peter learned it the hard way. A sheet let down, creatures he had called unclean, and the voice that cannot be argued with. Call nothing filthy that God hath made. That was not a lesson in diet. That was a sentence of liberation. It lifted him out of a tribal holiness into the holiness of God, which names nothing and nobody unclean. The revelation was not about pigs, it was about people. About your neighbor whose ways cross yours. About the stranger whose customs unsettle you. About the rival whose success offends you. The voice says, in effect, do not let your private labels foreclose my grace. The instant you stamp unclean, you take the seat again as private authority. You return to law, to merit, to punishment. And in that court, you live under your own sentence. Understand this. Judgment blocks grace, because judgment lives by deserts, and grace lives by is. Judgment argues, measures, tallies, and finally punishes or rewards. Grace governs without bookkeeping. You cannot be under grace and hold a secret warrant against your brother. You cannot ask for free supply while demanding payback in your heart from another. Nobody in this room can selectively allow grace. Nobody. Nobody. Grace is one indivisible government. Either it is present as the order of your being, and therefore the order of your neighbor's being, or you are in the human scene of trade and penalty. Choose. Do not confine this to religion. The Christ is not the property of a sect, a flag, a school, or a culture. The kingdom is not a national achievement, not the triumph of your party, not the victory of your taste. It is an inner state, now. When you enter that state, the labels fall. You look upon the news, the marketplace, the dinner table, and the face before you is not a threat to your place or a prop for your pride. It is the same life under the same government. Then action becomes clean. You may speak firmly. You may say no. You may set a boundary. You may report a crime. But not from hate, not from the old fever to punish. You act as instrument, not owner. Not I, but Christ. Test yourself. Who, right now, is excluded from your silent blessing? Name them. Feel the contraction? That is the personal I fortifying its borders. Stop. A split second of silence. No label. Not I. Let the government include what your mind refused. In that consent, something melts. You do not make yourself loving. Love, which is government, announces itself as your atmosphere. It is not sentimental. It is not blind. It is universal. Still here, yet not of here. Present, useful, compassionate, free of inner prejudice, and therefore available to be wherever grace needs a hand. As the personal I dissolves, judgment dissolves with it, and grace shines as universal government. This is your safety and your usefulness. You remain in this world, but not of it. A presence that blesses without preference and corrects without spite. And from that altitude, the old earth of factions and fears loses its terror. It melts. Now then, hold to this. Call nothing unclean that God hath made. And let the throne stay emptied of you, so the kingdom may be visible in you for all. Now then, let us make it plain enough to live by before you leave this room. Return to now. Stop rehearsing the case. Cease narrating yesterday and cease inventing tomorrow. Slip into the inner sanctuary for one split second. Do not build a shrine to the second. Take it. In that harmless interval, the claimant has no time to argue and no place to sit. And into that vacancy rushes not a sentence, but governance. Presence. Assurance without story. Here is your daily order, as simple as breath. First, recognize the personal I when it rises to claim ownership. My plan, my fear, my outcome. Catch that pronoun and do not chase its reasons. Second, pause. No debate, no scripture duel, no heroic correction. Third, allow silence. One split second will do if it is honest. A breath without a claimant. Fourth, feel for the shift. Rest where strain was. A quiet is where yesterday and tomorrow were. That is Christ government, not a mood. Fifth, take the next indicated step without strain. If the step is clear, move. If it is not, remain. That is all. Do this in the morning before the wheels start. Do it in the hallway, between doors. Do it at the sink, at the light, in the moment before you answer the phone. You are not trying to be good. You are yielding private authority so that good may be evident. A dozen times a day you will forget. Good. Then you will remember. Better. There is no merit in counting failures. There is only faithfulness in returning. Keep quiet and persist. Nobody is helped by your diary of struggle. Nobody. Nobody. Up to a point, we are students. We struggle. There's no use talking about it. Go on with the work until the transition becomes familiar, then frequent, then natural. Now then, keep the line bright. Either you live by law, time, fear, planning, merit, or you live under grace, government, guidance, supply. not both. The minute you drift into the past or lean into the future, you have taken yourself out of the kingdom of heaven. Return, now. Choose again, now. Not I, but Christ. My kingdom is not of this world. Remain in this world, yes, but not of its calendars, not of its fears, not of its private levers. Each return is a dethronement. Each silence is a coronation. Do not depend on this room or upon any person in it for your good. Not one in this room will carry you, nor need they. The government is internal and universal, operating where the private governor has resigned. When this practice ripens, you will discover you are unhurried at the center while active at the edges. Words become clean. Money becomes rhythm. Health becomes maintenance. Safety becomes location. The earth that loomed so solid in your mind melts without argument. So the day is simple. Now, a split second of silence. Not I. Repeat until grace is the natural order of your being and not a special event. Then you are still here, yet not of here. Free inwardly, available outwardly. A blessing without preference, an instrument without strain. Under one government that does not fail.